Hello, it's time to get the verification of food service applications webinar started. I would like somebody to type in a message. I want to make sure that you can hear me, please. I want to make sure that everything is working correctly. So if I can get a couple of people to type in, yes, okay, there's one, two, hello, hello. Okay, sounds good. All right, excellent, thank you very much. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. I will try to answer the questions as they pop up on my screen. Now you may see in your upper corner a red arrow that if you press that arrow, you can see the entire screen. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to try to finish this in an hour, see if I can make it happen. All right, so as you've been going along now, you've been receiving applications, and that's the application approval. It's approved based on face value. You're going to take the information that's on that application and approve it. Verification means you're going to verify 3% of the applications that you've approved. That means they have to submit to you documentation proving what they say they've reported on the application. Verified applications for free and reduced meals. This section is for conducting the verification process with little help. The process should help you, individual schools, keep or even increase free and reduced numbers. And to change one thing, hopefully it's better now. Oh, okay, okay. Is there supposed to be video? Yes, there is video, there is audio. I had to have someone come in and fix the video portion. So let's see how we can do on this. There are going to be families that are selected for verification that do not respond. Maybe they don't respond because they no longer qualify. Their level of education might create a disability. Might be language issues, and we are seeing the language issue coming up a little bit more. For now, primarily in the bigger cities and towns in Maine, Portland, Lewiston, Auburn, but it is expanding, so it can start to become an issue. You can always invite the families in, maybe set up a night or an afternoon, that they can come in and join you and maybe complete this process a little bit easier. Who is not who is not required to complete the verification process? If you are an RCCI, Residential Child Care Institute, and you have no day students, that means you only have night students, sleeping students, schools in milk-only programs, or schools or districts under Provision 1, 2, or 3 after their base year. If you're Provision 1, 2, or 3 in your base year, then yes, you must complete the verification process. CEP, they are not required to complete the verification process. However, all of them, every school district in the state of Maine participating in the National School Life Program must submit the online verification report by November 20th. A CEP school can submit verification whenever they want because their information just asked about number of students and number of schools. We'll get into a little bit more. Right now, we'll let you know. Sections 1 to 5-1 must be filled out by all schools participating. So even if you're CEP, Provision 2, non-base year, you're going to fill in the sections 1 to 5-1. There's parts of it you're not going to fill in. You're just going to check, no, I don't need to do this. If you have any questions when you're filling out this report, please do not hesitate to call this office. The presentation will be saved as a PDF format and posted on the web. What is a school district? A school district is related to the school board. An RSU or an MSAD has one school board, therefore it is considered by us as one district. An AOS or union may have several school boards, therefore there are several districts. Any questions? Give us a call and we'll see what we can do to help you with that. The required method of verification is what's called error-prone. That's approving an application that is approved within $100 of the monthly income guidelines or annual income of $1,200, and that's for free and reduced price applications. Any application that has been denied, even if it's denied by $1, is a denied application and is not subject to verification. Show you an example here real quick. So currently for the family of three, free income guideline monthly is $2,213. For reduced is $3,149. So for a free error-prone application, it's going to be from $2,213 to $2,113. That would be an error-prone application. A reduced application is going to be $100 above the free and $100 below the reduced income guideline. Make sure you're looking at all the right figures when you're doing this. Don't just go $100 below free and $100 below reduced. It's also $100 above the free. As you're approving the applications, if you're doing manual approval, a suggestion is to either put a sticky note on the error-prone applications. Maybe you're going to put them in a different stack. Make the process easier when you actually start it. You'll already have any error-prone applications set off on the side. Here's an example. A family size of 3, if their income is $2,254 monthly, based on the comparison that I talked to you about earlier, it is a reduced approved application, but it is within $100 above the free income guideline. Therefore, it is an error-prone application. Family size of 3, weekly income is $730. Is this an error-prone application? You may remember any time that we've talked about income guidelines and you have to do a formula for them, you always translate it, convert it to yearly income. So in this case, we would have to report the weekly income to yearly, multiply it by 52 to come up with the figure. Our webpage also has the yearly income guidelines. So this application ends up being denied, so it is not going to be subject to our verification sample pool. Can a district use an alternate method of verification? Yes, you can. If in the prior year the non-response rate is less than 20%, you can use an alternate method of verification. In order to use an alternate method, you must email David Hartley at maine.gov to get permission. This must be done in an email. If you call me and ask for permission, I will not answer the question. If you email or call any of the other reviewers, they will refer you to me to get the answer if your non-response rate qualifies for you to do other than error-prone verification. If you do want to do error-prone verification, the request must include what type of verification do you want to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a couple of minutes. If you're using electronic, typically they call error-prone standard. If you were to do standard or alternate one, that's one of them that we'll talk about, you're only going to select 3% of the approved applications. That's whether it's an income application or a SNAP number application. If you're doing standard, your selection is from the error-prone applications. If you're doing alternate 1, if you've received permission, you're selecting from all of the approved applications, including what we call categorical or SNAP number applications. They are part of the selection pool. When you do the math to determine how many applications you have to verify, do not over-verify. Only do the required amount. Do not pick extra ones just so you get a better response rate. There's no guarantee that that will help with your response rate. Only do the required number of applications. When you're determining your sample size, only count 1 approved application per family. If a family has sent you 3 applications, staple them together, and when you're making your final determination, only count that application once. If you have an application from a family that is on the direct certification list, put that application in a different file and don't use it because you're not going to need it. You have to keep those applications, but you're not going to need them for the rest of the school year because that child was listed on the direct certification list. It was mailed to you, you must keep it, you must file it. All right, you're going to do error-prone. 3% of all of the approved applications, free and reduced. However, your first selection is going to be from the stack of error-prone applications that you have. So, for instance, if you need 5 and you have 10 error-prone applications, randomly select 5 for you to verify. Do not focus on any families. We can talk about focusing on a family later. There's a reason for that, and we'll try to get that in later. If you do not have enough error-prone applications available, pull from the remaining stack. For instance, you need 5, however, you only have 4 error-prone applications. The last one is completely random from all of the approved applications, including the categorically approved. You're not going to focus on the next closest to error-prone. It's either error-prone or it's not error-prone, the approved application. For each application selected by a school district, another official in the school must conduct what's called a confirmation review of the initial eligibility determination made to make sure that it was correct or incorrect. Whoever is that confirmation official must sign or initial and date each application that was done. Who is the confirmation official? That's a local decision. Each year, when the school year begins, the annual participation agreement, you report to us who the confirmation official is and who the approving official is. They have to be 2 different people. You do not have to follow this procedure if you're entering data into an approving electronic approval system. If you're entering the numbers into the electronic system and they are making that determination, then you don't have to do the confirmation review. I, however, believe it's a good idea to make sure all the data was entered correctly. It's not required, but it would not hurt for it to happen. The third option is what's called alternate 2, and that used to be called focused. In a focused verification procedure, you're going to verify 1% of the income approved applications. However, that 1% is going to be focused on the error-prone applications that we mentioned earlier. You're only going to do 1% of the income, but the first selection is from error-prone. Also with alternate 2 or focused, you're going to do 0.5% of the food stamp or TANF or SNAP applications that you have. And that's only the ones that are approved based on the application. We're not going to use any of the applications that are on the direct certification list. Remember, those go in a different folder, put them in your drawer. You're probably never going to look at those for the rest of the year because you don't need to. What's the procedure? All right. There are sample letters on our website, and most electronic systems already have a built-in notification letter. So the first thing you're going to do once you've made your selection is you're going to address a letter to the family notifying them of their selection. You must keep a copy of the original letter going to that family. Dated, when do they have to respond? All that has to be on that letter. And we want to see during the review a copy of that letter addressed to that family, not the master letter. Also included is what information can they submit to you to prove their income. Do they send to you a tax return? Do they send to you a pay stub? There are various options they have to send you the documentation. That initial letter will give them 10 calendar days to respond. Stick with whatever timeline you're going by, you choose. I've talked with many school districts when I'm out doing the review, and they didn't stick to the timeline, so the verification has gone on for over a month. It doesn't need to. Whatever day is on that letter, for instance, if you send out the letter on October 2nd, they have to October 12th to get back to you. On October 13th, make the next step. Don't delay, stick with the timeline. Keep copies of all correspondence between the family and you. If you have to call the family to get further information, they've sent you information, you have a question about the information they sent you, call them, keep notes. Write it either on your copy of the letter, put it on a sticky note that you attach to the letter. But as I stated earlier, don't keep just a copy of the master. Keep a copy of each individual letter sent out to each individual family. Household notification and verification, you must include a no-cost telephone number for the household to call you should they have a question. This does not mean you have to set up a temporary 800 phone number. If your district is large enough and a school is in a different area code or a different calling center than you are located, maybe they call their local school. The local school will then call you with that question, and you'll return the call to the family. They must be able to contact you, and it must not have to cost them to make that call. We have the sample letters on our webpage on the forms. There's the verification information update. It's the stuff that we've talked about. Also with the original package that goes out is going to be a copy of the Privacy Act statement, the full statement, not the abbreviated. You'll send them that letter. What can they send back to you? The privacy statement. Make sure to include the timeline of when they can respond. And don't go out 20, 30 days. The one that is mentioned in all of the training materials is 10 calendar days. Stick with the timeline. This is just a sample of the master that we have on our website. You'll notice it has the school name. It mentions the family. Down below, if you get this letter for homeless migrant, who do you contact? It's got a place in there for the date that they have to respond to you back by. This is just a sample letter that's on our website. A copy of the documentation that they have to send, that they're allowed to send back to you. Do they get unemployment, disability, workers' comp? Some form of notification about them receiving that. Welfare payments, child support or alimony payments. Other income, rental income. Income is what is received on an annual basis. If you select an application to verify and they listed zero income, they can still be subject to verification. However, they have to submit to you a note explaining how they are getting by. How are they getting food, clothing, housing? How are they supporting themselves if they have no income? Time frame for the documentation to come in, your name, a phone number, as I mentioned, toll free, a reverse charge, an email address if they have questions. Make this as simple for them to do, makes your life easier. Sample of the non-discrimination statement, as I mentioned, this must go out with the initial letter as well. All right, you got documentation back. You're going to evaluate the information, make a determination if all information needed is present. You may need more information. You may need to ask questions. If the pay stub is not clear on the pay period, call them. Is this weekly? Is this bi-weekly? Is this bi-monthly? Make sure that you're doing the math correctly for whatever income that pay stub shows. Bi-weekly, you're going to multiply it by 26. Bi-monthly, you're going to multiply it by 24. Make sure you're using the correct math. If a family does not respond to the initial request for information, you must make at least one additional contact attempt before denying the benefits. That second attempt can be a phone call. That second attempt can be another letter. Either way, with the phone call, with the second letter, give them a time frame. And once again, as I mentioned, stick with that time frame. For instance, if you call the family and you call them on Tuesday, October 20th, call them, leave a message. Hello, this is David Hartley. I'm calling about the letter I sent to you previously concerning verification. I have not heard from you. I need to hear from you by October 23rd, this Friday, in order to complete this process. If that Friday comes and you don't hear from them, then that afternoon or on Monday, they're going to get the letter that you did not hear from them, and their benefit status will change. That letter telling them that the benefit status will change will have a 10-day period for them to appeal or finally get you documentation so that they continue to receive that benefit. Let's see. If no response, make at least one additional attempt before denying benefits. The second attempt can be a phone call. Give them a deadline. Stick to the timeline. Very important. Evaluate the information. If they sent you back, now they have food stamps. See if they're on the direct serve list. They can't just tell you that we have food stamps now and give you the number. They would have to send you something from DHHS that says, yes, they have benefits. Because it's the verification process, we need proof of what they say. Check the income monthly or yearly. If other, convert to yearly. Maybe they're self-employed. If they're self-employed from a business, you're going to want their Schedule C, and you're going to want line 29. If they're foreign, you're going to want Schedule F, and you're going to use line 34. If you have questions on any of this, give me a call. If a parent calls you and says, I don't qualify for this benefit anymore, ask them to send you an email. It's a response. It's a self-denial, and there is a letter that you would send to them saying, thank you for your correspondence. Your status will change. We want to get as many responses as you can. If they're self-denying, though, please get it in writing. Letters to parents for more information. There's also on our forms page a form that you can use if you want to track the process. Put the dates on it, you've heard, you haven't heard, the second attempt, what's the time frame on the second attempt. Helps you keep track of the whole process. There's a final letter that you might send to them. Hopefully, most of the time, it's thank you for responding. everything works, you're not changing. If they are going to change and they're going to get a decreased benefit, they have 10 days. So if they were free and they're now going to be reduced or paid, and you're sending that letter out to them on October 10th, their new status begins on October 30th. Include in the letter that goes out to them the meal price for whatever benefit they are now eligible for. This is just part of the same form down at the bottom. Notice at the bottom, if you disagree with the decision, you may discuss it with. They have the right to a fair hearing. They have a right to appeal. This must be on that letter. Notify the family of the decision. If the category changed, they must have the opportunity to appeal. If the benefit changes and they're losing benefit, as I mentioned, 10 calendar days, however, maybe they were reduced and they did the math wrong, you've done it right, and now they're free. You have up to 3 days to make the change. Our recommendation, make the change immediately. Benefit the family, benefit your program. If they get a better benefit, make it effective immediately. You have 3 days. Suggested, do it today. Once a family is selected for verification, they are subject to the verification process for the entire year. So, if the family did not respond, even if it's a self-denial, they did not respond, but now they want to reapply for the benefit, before that application can be approved, you must also receive documentation that they would have used in the original verification process. If they send you an application, they don't send you anything, before you approve that application, you're going to have to send them another letter, make a phone call to explain, thank you, but since you were subject to verification, I need proof that similar to what I requested previously. I need a pay stub. I need a tax statement. I need something to prove what you've just written on this application. One of the questions I get a lot about this is what happens in September of the next year. It's a new year. Any family selected for verification is subject to verification for the school year that they were selected in. So if a family from last year did not respond, they went to pay, they gave you an application at the beginning of this school year, that application now says they're free, accept it, sign it, move on. A new year is just that, a new year for everybody. What is income? Income is any money received prior to deductions, prior to Social Security, taxes, insurance benefits, charitable contributions, bonds. As I mentioned on the tax return, Schedule F and Schedule C, that line is basically determining this is how much I earned this year, this is how much it cost me to earn that money, and that's the figure that's used. In the Child Nutrition Program, if they send you a tax return, one of the members of the household is self-employed. That self-employed business lost $5,000. The additional household member has a job, and they make $20,000 a year. That zero or negative on a Schedule C or Schedule F, for us, becomes zero. So for us, the determination would be that the family income is $20,000, not $15,000 after the loss. What is income? Cash received on a recurring basis. You get something every month, a payout from something every month that's recurring basis, that's income. In-kind benefits, not cash payments, therefore, are not income. You do something for each other, there's no cash exchanged, it would not be considered income. Common questions. What if the person is seasonally employed? Typically, a seasonal employee, if you can get last year's tax return, is probably going to make them free for the rest of the year, because whatever is determined based on verification, just like the original application, is good for the year. It's not going to change unless they request to make that change. What happens with temporary layoff? If the mill is closed down, or the company, the plant is closed down for 2 weeks, for a month, the families can reapply for the benefit for that month that they're laid off. After they go back to work, they would go back to the original benefit. They're not going to retain that temporary layoff benefit. They're laid off, they would have to give you a new application. You're in that town, you know when the plant's going to start back up. When the plant starts back up, they go back up to the original payment. Child support payments. Child support payments only count if the family actually receives it. It does not reduce for the family that's making the payment. It does increase the family that's receiving the payment. For instance, if the court-appointed payments is $500 a month, but the custodial spouse only receives $250, that's all we're going to concern ourselves with. You would need a letter from the parent documenting that this is what they get, or if there's some way that they can prove that. If there's a check, maybe a canceled check crossing out some pertinent data. If it's been court-appointed and the legal system does it, the direct deposit made into their account will show that. As mentioned earlier, with self-employment, Schedule C is line 29. Schedule F is line 34, as I mentioned earlier as well. If that shows as a negative for verification purposes, it equals 0. You should be completing your verification deadline by November 15th. You should be done. All the families should have responded. All the ones that did not respond should have gotten their letter. Everything should be done. Any documentation of the dates and communication is very important. As I mentioned, keep copies of the original letters. Keep notes of any phone calls that you make. Copies of all correspondence must be kept for each family, just like all the other documentation for the school nutrition program, 3 years plus the current. And once this documentation is no longer needed, it is destroyed. Keep all records for 3 years plus the current. Document everything confidential. Please, please, please do not mail anything to DOE Food Service unless we ask. Anything you mail to us, we have to keep on file. We're trying to eliminate paper files as much as possible. Only send something if we ask for it. There's a document out there called the Eligibility Manual for School Meals, Eligibility Guidance. It's an excellent document. We use it. All of the reviewers have a copy. It has information on the application approval process. It has information on the verification process. This manual, it's updated every year. The current link that's on our website for this manual includes yellow highlights for any changes from the prior school year. It is an excellent reference tool. We use it ourselves. The verification report, the final verification report must be submitted online. It must be submitted by November 20th. The form can only be submitted online. If you mail me a paper copy of your form, I will send it back to you. You have to submit it online. Do you need an extension? Something happened and you need an extension to complete the verification process. You can request an extension. That request for an extension will once again come to me and come to me only. Email me, david.hartley@maine.gov. I will not answer this question in a phone call. In your request for an extension, you must include, why do you need the extension? When will you complete the process? And what steps will you take so that next year, moving forward, an extension is not needed? Maybe there was a medical emergency. These things happen. This is something that happens every school year. This is something that the timeline and the date that it has to be submitted does not change. It stays the same every year. It must be submitted online by November 20th of every year. It doesn't matter if that date is the 20th or, a Saturday or a Sunday or a holiday. That's the due date. The week that the verification process is complete, I do not travel. I stay at my office, I stay at my desk so that I can get these approved and complete the process as soon as I can. The verification form, let's see if I can call it up here real quick. And it's not going to let me do it. Yeah, maybe it will. It's thinking now. Okay, it's not going to let me do it. Now, let's try this one. Now, there we go. This one works. So this is the verification report that you're going to fill in online. You'll notice at the top, it asks for the name. Who is submitting this report? If I have questions, who do I call? The name of that person and the phone number of the person that I'm going to call. I would also like to email. If I can, as much as possible, I will email this individual to get questions, to get answers. State agency is already filled in. SFI ID, I have that number. Are you a public? Are you a private school? There's a drop down for all of the districts in the state of Maine. Find your district, click on it. What district, what city is the district located in, and what is the zip code? The very first section of this asks for the number of schools and the number of students in the district. This everybody fills out. Provision 1, Provision 2, Provision 3, CEP. Every school district filling in this report fills in Section 1. RCCIs fill out a different section. Section 2, this deals with schools that are completing a special provision. For Maine, that is CEP, Community Eligibility, and Provision 2. Which section you fill out in this section depends on what special provision your school district is completing. Section 3, the first block 3.1, will be completed by those that are RCCIs or special provision schools. This is where you're going to report the number of students that are SNAP eligible, homeless liaison, TANF, runaway, foster, Head Start, pre-K. They are all reported in Section 3. Depending on which category they fall in, Section 3.2, 3.3, or 3.4. It's just asking for the number of students because there is no application for them to complete. Section 4, this asks questions about the number of applications and number of students on those applications. Section 4.1, how many applications are you approved based on a food stamp TANF number on the application only? This does not include applications that are also on the direct cert list. It's going to ask for the number of applications. It's going to ask for the number of students. 4.2 is how many students are eligible because of income, free eligible based on income. Number of students, number of applications. Section 4.3, number of students, number of applications for reduced eligible students. you'll see block T1 asks for the total free eligible students. That is for Section 3 and Section 4. How many direct search students do you have? How many categorical students do you have? How many free income students do you have? Go in Section T1. When you submit your verification report, I check the math. If the math does not work, I will respond to you and let you know that it does not work and you need to resubmit the report. I don't know what the right figure is. P2, that's just the reduced eligible. That's fairly simple. Once that is done, Section 5, those school districts that did not actually have to complete the verification process will check box 5.1 and they're done. They would go to the bottom of this form and hit the submit button. Nothing else below needs to be filled out by a special provision school. Block 5.2 asks when you completed the verification process. Did you complete it on time? Yes or no? The third option, no, verification was not performed or process was not completed. I have never checked that because I make sure that everyone does it. Section 5.3 asks, what kind of verification did you complete? Standard being the error prone. Alternate 1 being just 3% of all of the applications. Alternate 2 is 1% of the income applications and 0.5% of the SNAP or TANF applications. And then Section 5.4, total error-prone applications. If you do not have any error-prone applications, check block 2 in Section 5.3. If I see a 0 in 5.4 and I see that alternate 1 was selected, I'm not going to look for a letter requesting to do a different method. If you put that you have error-prone applications in block 5.4 and you check alternate 1, I'm going to look for your letter, well, I already know about it, your letter requesting to do alternate 1. If you did not request it and you completed it incorrectly, I will send you a notification. Section 5.5 asks, how many applications did you verify? We're going to go down a little bit further here. All right, Section 5.6. Did you directly verify, or this says, check this box if direct verification was not completed. That means that you picked a family to be verified. You checked the direct cert list and they happen to be on it. Then that means you did directly verify. If that happens, you're going to put that information in block 5.7. That means these applications were verified through the direct cert method. And then Section 5.8. Section 5.8 only is required information on the applications that were selected for verification. Section 5.2, Section 5.8, Section A, this deals with a categorically approved application. So it's a free application with either a SNAP or TANF number on it. Responded, no change. Responded, change to reduced. Responded, change to paid. Not responded, change to paid. If they responded, and even if it's a self-denial, it's going to be a responded change to paid because they self-denied the number of applications and the number of students. Same information for Section B, they're free based on income. And then Section C is reduced. You're putting in the number of applications that you selected for verification. I'm going to compare the total number of applications in 5.8 with the number of applications you reported verified in Section 5.5. If the numbers don't match, I'm going to email you back to ask why they don't match. I don't know the answer. That's a question that only you can answer. And then back, the very last option to fill out is what's called verification for cause. If you have an application and you suspect they did not report information correctly, you can complete what's called verification for cause. This is above and beyond the required verification. This is not going to replace any of the required 3%. If your 3% is 4, and you verified an application for cause, you're now going to verify 5 applications. Any application selected to be verified for cause is processed the exact same way. They get the exact same letter, they get the exact same time frame. Nothing changes. So let's get back to the presentation. All right. And as I don't really need to go through too much of this. We already talked about it. We looked at the report, the name of the person that completed it. Who do I ask questions to? Their phone number and the email, because as I mentioned, this is typically how I will try to respond. If you send a verification report, and if the math does not work, it is not going to be logged as an accepted report because it is incorrect. The only verification reports that are logged as accepted is if the math works and the data is acceptable. If it does not work, I will send you back an email pointing out what the problem is. I would suggest, if you have a problem with things going to your junk mail folder, check that. Several years ago, I sent back to someone that their verification report, the math did not work. They never got that message. When they finally checked their junk folder, they found my response in there. So just some more information that's needed on the verification report that we've already talked about. An example of the report, we've pretty much already gone through this line by line. Section 5 pertains to the completed verification process. We already mentioned those, total applications error-prone, total number verified. We went through all this stuff, so I'm really not going to hang out there too long. This is my email address. This is my phone number. We still have a few more things to go over, so don't get too excited. Anyone in the office that's a reviewer can answer basic verification questions. If you need an extension, if you need to do a different type of verification, those requests need to come to me and me only. They will ask you to contact me or forward that request to me to respond. The web address on our web page for where the forms and the document is located, very easy to find. All right. Now we have a policy, verification procedure for missing or late reports. We have this policy so that everyone gets treated the same way. Starting probably next week, I'll send out a reminder that on the listserv, the Thursday update, that you should have started your process. If you haven't started the verification, you need to start it very soon. On November 20th, or within 2 days, a list of school districts that have not submitted a completed verification report will be submitted to our team leader, the front office, and we post it on the web. There will also be, no, that's coming next, sorry. December 1st, or within 2 days, if I have not received a completed and correct verification report, a letter will be sent to superintendents about the missing verification report. The web page will be updated for these reports that are still missing. On December 10th, if any verification reports that have still not been received, another letter will go out to the superintendent reminding them that we don't have your completed verification report. As I mentioned earlier about that one school where it was submitted, but I had questions, they didn't know it. He found out that I had questions because the superintendent got the letter and contacted the food service director to say what's going on here. That food service director called me, and I responded that I had questions, and that's when he found it in his junk mail folder. On December 15th, or within 2 days, passwords and IDs will be revoked. You will not be able to submit claims, process any type of school nutrition data until an extension has been requested and a plan of action has been submitted. This, once again, will something that will have to come to me, to my attention. When the SAU's verification report is received and corrected, Child Nutrition Office staff will reinstate passwords and permissions within 3 days. We make sure that this happens as soon as possible. If I receive your verification report, everything is correct, I will let the responding people know that it is correct and the passwords and IDs can be reactivated. An extension for a request must, as we mentioned earlier, has to have certain information. However, based on federal guidelines, any waiver request for an extension past December 15th must be approved by the New England Regional Office. So if you email me a request for an extension and that request for an extension is for December 30th, that request I have to send to our New England Regional Office. Even after you've sent the request for an extension, get the process going. Don't wait for my response. Get started with getting it. Get started the process. Move it along. All right, we are pretty much done with this. This data, the recording of this webinar will be posted on our webpage in a couple of days, and a PDF format of the presentation will also be posted on our website. They'll all be posted at the same location. We have a webpage training folder. The next webinar will be on the after-school snack program, and that will be on Tuesday, October 24th. I hope that this webinar has been useful. I hope that you, wait a minute, we've got a question here. Let me get back to you just a minute. Can this class count towards our yearly training? Yes. This is part of your yearly professionals training standards, and yes, this counts as 1 hour of training. We'll make the certificates available. If there are no further questions, I'll wait here for just a minute to see if there are any more questions. But this webinar has now concluded, and we'll finish it up in a couple of minutes and get it posted by Friday to our webpage, both the recording and the documents themselves. Thank you. Have a good day. Good luck. Done.
Cool. You did good.
I'm done for the rest of the year.
You did good, David.
Thank you. Audio was okay, no problems. Yep. Reading was fine, no problems.
The screen in the beginning, if I came in because it wasn't showing.
What?
We didn't show the screen in the beginning. If I came in. But
I just didn't press that button. And you never saw this.
No.
I left it up so I could see any questions.
Yep.
I mean, I've done this so many times, I could probably do it just off blindfolded.
Nice, you did good.
Okay, thank you.
Give it a day and then I can post it on.
Yeah. I've already got the PDF set. I just got it once we have that done. Everything can be put up. It's on the webinar, DOE, nutrition, blah, 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 webinar folder.
Okay. I'll just tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.